Surviving Reality contains explicit content full of snark and sarcasm that may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello and welcome to Surviving Reality.
I'm Corey.
And I'm Carly, and this is the season finale of Season 2 of Gypsy Rose's Life After Lockup, The Ultimatum.
Season 2, Episode 11.
The ultimatums. There were multiple.
I guess there should have been a plural on this because there were a few different ultimatums that Gypsy was faced with.
I thought this was going to be a really crazy episode because Gypsy went on her 30-day social media detox just in time for the finale to air.
I have to say, that was a strategy she didn't want Ken to see. It was probably something that she convinced Ken, we both need to go on a 30-day dry spell here for social media, so then that way he doesn't see all the clips of the text message exchanges between Gypsy and Ryan.
That's what I thought. Where were all the pictures? Thought they were going to be incriminating texts. Something that she didn't want him to see. Maybe she's just afraid that in the last 30-day sprint towards freedom, she'll be reported for more stuff because it's the last effort people can make to get her parole extended or to get her to go back to prison.
Well, now you're just giving a bunch of people ideas. I don't like that.
The clock is running out. Well, in this episode, when Ken learns of Gypsy's plan to meet Ryan with baby Aurora in tow, he puts his foot down and gives her an ultimatum.
And then, they don't even mention Ryan's ultimatum, which he didn't really have leverage to issue an ultimatum. So I don't know what his goal was. If it was just, if he doesn't get to meet Aurora, she'll remain in Anderson forever. I think that was his ultimatum, which it's going to be tough to do that. Don't really have a leg to stand on, bro.
He was trying so hard to extend his time on the show.
I'm shocked that they stretched this story to a full season arc for him. Do you think if they come back for season 3, is there going to be more Ryan? I think
No.
If there are people on Love on the Spectrum where they told them repeatedly after season 1, I think we told your story. I think we've told Ryan's story to completion here as well. I think we're done.
The way that they just didn't circle back with him to get his take on the paternity.
Well, usually
pregnancy,
they're pretty sure about the maternity.
On the paternity test being negative. I guess that's a spoiler. Was it? It really wasn't. We all knew. We already had one paternity test this season. We're going to go have a second one in this episode.
When one paternity test comes back 99.999% positive, usually that's pretty indicative that that person is the father. You don't need to test anybody else.
I kept waiting, though, for a scene where they asked him how he felt about officially knowing that he wasn't the father of the baby, and we didn't get that. So I don't know if he'll be back ever again.
Good news is probably because it still hasn't sunk in for him. They didn't actually say what the results were.
What, does he need a town crier?
There's a lot of people on TikTok who they still aren't getting that. They're thinking that Lifetime has exposed Gypsy's lies and deceit yet again because Ryan's lawyer is saying there's no precedent for that type of paternity test that she took.
The first one that they had.
The first one.
Yeah. Wasn't the whole point just to get people to stop talking about how Ryan was the father? I don't think at any point in time she made us believe that that was supposed to be her following the law in an attempt to circumvent Ryan being on the birth certificate. It was pretty clear that was going to happen.
It could have been used for that, though, because there was evidence, proof, definitive DNA proof that Ken is the father. So Ryan could have signed over that other documentation to relinquish the naming and give that to Ken and Gypsy. If there wasn't a 3.5-hour drive on either end of that, it might have been a possibility.
Let's get into the episode. We're still leaving off learning more about how Gypsy and Ryan have been talking again. They had a nice, cordial phone call that felt like old friends rekindling. Rekindling? I think so. Uh-oh. There's the flame with Ken is with apparently
Ryan.
No. Okay. She said later on that the spark's kind of gone between her and Ken.
The thriller's gone. It is, though.
So I think she's trying to reignite something with Ryan. I don't believe her version of events. I don't think that she's a reliable narrator.
I think she is going for something more than what she's alluding to. She's getting more out of these interactions with Ryan than she's willing to admit at this point.
They stuck just to the facts about paternity, though.
Allegedly.
Do you believe that?
No, because there are plenty of other texts and photo exchanges, comments, and also compliments, I'm sure. Mostly One Direction. I don't think Gypsy was complimenting Ryan's goatee or how beady his eyes looked.
I thought that was going to be a One Direction joke.
No.
You don't know you're beautiful.
Oh, okay.
I'm
That's
not
what
singing
makes
on
you
the
beautiful.
podcast anymore.
Okay. I don't sing like that.
This phone call was probably 5 hours long, and at some point they talked about paternity, but it was more so making plans for Ryan to meet baby Aurora. Aurora number 2. We got a lot of Aurora number 1 in this
Ladies
episode.
and gentlemen, this is Aurora number 2. No, I don't think I liked the part where Gypsy had this whole conversation with Ryan. They planned baby's day out. They were going to get together, meet up, quick little paternity test, quick little luncheon, quick little meet and greet. And that was just what was agreed upon between the two of them. So she texts Ken while he's at work and just says, hey, by the way, planned out this super fun day with me and Ryan and Aurora. Just wanted to float that by you and give you a heads up. Not ask if you're okay with that, what you're comfortable with, or what your input is on what this agenda would look like. I'm just letting you know that this is what's happening. This is the conclusion that we reached as co-parents in a non-existent naming fashion.
You see, that's some shit. That's where she's acting like she's on season 1 of Teen Mom, where you're going to text him while he's at work. So you know it's not really the time to have a conversation. He's going to have to think about it for a while before he has a chance to talk to you about it again. And you gave Ryan a phone call about this, but you couldn't give Ken one?
Because even the producer was asking Ken, oh, what was your phone conversation with Gypsy about? And he goes, we didn't have a phone conversation. She just texted me about her phone conversation with Ryan.
He is so stressed, too. He's got the glass cleaner on the counter. He's got the Clorox bottle.
I need more petty Ken in my life. I need a lot of petty Ken because this is the Ken that I can deal with as long as I agree with him. Because if he's getting petty on stuff that I'm not interested in, then he's going to lose me pretty quick.
But is it
like
really
this.
pettiness, though? Because he's not wrong. It seems unnecessary to have a meet and greet post-paternity test luncheon with your ex-husband where the baby's present. That just doesn't seem like that's needed as part of proving that he's not the father of the baby.
Right. Like you've already proven that he's not the father. So this seems like completely not necessary at all. And now you're also involving an innocent baby in the middle of this, which that's the other part where I don't like that, to just go hang out with Ryan.
What if he tries to sell the baby?
He might try to nab the baby.
It's a Teen Mom deep track. What if he took pictures of the baby and posted it on social media because they're trying to keep the baby's face off of online?
She's already sending him unedited,
Oh,
unblurred
that's
photos.
true.
So he has
He does
photos.
have access to all of them anyway.
So she can trust him. He hasn't posted any of those yet.
This is clearly just an excuse for her to sit down and have a face-to-face conversation with him.
And that's the problem, is that was the one thing that she wanted on divorce day, was she wanted to have the sit-down conversation, some conclusion, some finality to their divorce. And she didn't really get that opportunity. So now she's trying to bundle that in based on Ryan wants to meet Aurora. So maybe we can accomplish both of these things simultaneously.
How about you just don't talk to him again?
Why do you need
Your
to
relationship is over.
His feelings are his feelings. You don't need to cater to that at all. Can we have a separation, a distinction?
I mean, maybe managing other people's feelings is a little bit of her trauma from her childhood.
Well, I get that, but like that's something that you need to work through as an individual and something that you need to separate from and establish your own boundaries for.
More therapy, less luncheons.
Yeah, you don't need a luncheon for this.
Also, how far is Ryan going to drive for this? Are you going to him? Maybe she is going to meet him in Lake Charles because we do see her take her driver's test to get her license.
She does get her license.
I was unclear. I thought, like, is this just a continuation of her hours behind the wheel?
I thought it was more training. Yeah.
Because this is the same woman who's been teaching her how to drive is also giving her driver's test. That seems a little biased.
Did you have that? Yeah, mine was a completely different person.
No, you had to go to like a centralized location, and then you got like someone that you never met before who got in the car with you and started judging you.
It was like the DMV that you had to go to, or BMV or whatever they're calling it now. But yeah, you had to go. Mine was I think like a police officer or something too.
Really? Well, Gypsy wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah, that's scary. So maybe she asked for special treatment. Plus, there's probably like 3 people who work in that department in Louisiana.
This poor woman, it's time to retire. I don't think she can. No one in this area will be able to get their driver's license.
They won't know what to do. It would just, the system will fall apart without this woman at this point. She is the crux of every single driver's license in this county.
I really didn't think it was going well because the first thing Gypsy did when she got in the car was confuse the gas pedal and the brake.
That's a big one. I would say that's a very important distinction to make.
Do gas you know how long I panicked over that for when I started driving?
Of confusing the gas and the brake?
Yes. I still have to think about it every once in a while.
No, that's scary. Don't say that too much. I know, because you don't drive that often, passenger princess.
I don't. I would drive our baby to get a paternity test, though, if it meant that I could get rid of Ryan.
I don't think Gypsy wants to get rid of Ryan, and that's the problem.
Perhaps there was a last-minute rush here to get this checked off the list because there was no way Ken was going to drive her to this meeting.
Maybe that was why she got a little overzealous with committing to this without checking in with anyone. She figured, well, I'll be able to drive myself to it now.
She passed with the 90. I guess it wasn't a lot of points deducted for confusing the pedals.
Didn't sound like that was any of the points that were deducted on that reasoning, which I would have deducted a few.
The parking job back in the driveway wasn't great.
No, and that wasn't part of the issue either. I think the only points that she deducted were because she signaled too early, which I would rather have you signal too early than signal too late, would be my preference.
Or not at all.
Or not at all. So it was still just the warning about that. But I mean, she was halfway out the driveway with the back end of this
vehicle. She didn't even get in there.
She wasn't fully in there. So maybe misjudging stopping points, I would say that would be a deduction.
Was it that dangerous, though, to turn your blinker on so early? Because these are old, long country roads, and they're like one place to turn.
I don't think
I've ever... half mile down the road.
Well, I can say with confidence, I've never driven in cutoff. So I don't know what the traffic patterns are. I can't expect them to be too congested on the roadways there.
We hard transition back into what is going to happen with this meeting because we were kind of left on a cliffhanger. Ken didn't really seem into the idea, but they hadn't had a conversation because it wasn't her days with him.
Oh, right. Yeah,
it's like he's got custody of her 2 days a week, sharing it with Rod and Christy.
Oh, boy. So this is when we started getting...
They didn't film this conversation now, did they?
Some of the other stuff that was sprinkled in here, too, with Gypsy's commentary on her and Ken's relationship analysis as far as what was going on with there, too.
She becomes disillusioned with stuff too easily. You have a newborn who's, at this point, a month and a half old, and she's a little concerned about the fact that they're not reenacting Jizz Fest multiple times a week. Like, the spark's not really there. We're both really tired all the time. We don't really have a lot of time for each other.
Well, I think she's missing Ken's attention on her, on Gypsy, because now the focus is on Aurora. It's on the baby.
And the baby can't talk and compliment her yet. That's why she has to text Ryan.
Because she's not getting that from anyone else that she needs it from. But then that's scary because you're inviting a whole other mess into this. I don't know if Ken realizes the full extent of these conversations that are happening. It doesn't seem like that becomes part of the show for this season at all. Maybe that led to some of the social media backlash that we saw more recently here, and then that led to the social media detox.
You mean like how much Gypsy and Ryan are really talking to each other?
Yeah.
Yeah. They must have had a blow-up fight, though, because Ken ends up telling Gypsy, look, if you go through with this, I am going to take Aurora, and I'm going to go back to Texas, and I'm going to file for custody of her. Which was a little extreme.
That was, maybe not the best way to go about that.
She must have been really trying to hold steady, though, in keeping this in-person meeting. For him to get to that point.
I think that Ken is this is a culmination of a lot of bulldozing over Ken's opinions on things. He's not being taken into account for any of these decisions that are being made.
Yeah, you're right. That and a lot of bullshit. She keeps stirring stuff up and starting drama, and I think he's getting really tired of it.
It keeps happening. And then he's saying, like, this doesn't need to be a meeting at all. This is a meeting that could have been an email. You just send the results of the paternity test, and that's it. You don't need to go meet in person. He doesn't need to meet the baby. It's not his baby. Why does he need to forge a connection with this baby?
Also, why would you want to meet a baby before you had the results of the test, and the whole time you could be thinking, like, maybe this is my baby, and then you find out a few weeks later that it's definitely not?
So then that way he could be utterly convinced that he spent time with this baby. He imprinted on this baby in a Twilight fashion. And so
he wanted to have his Jacob moment.
Well, we did get a Twilight reference here too. I mean, Gypsy didn't realize what she was quoting.
That she was going to be Switzerland.
Yeah.
Which Ken really liked. And then she explained, well, the reference I have for that is Twilight.
Oh, not world history, Ken. Don't get too excited.
I'm Bella Swan in this scenario.
Who says she is Switzerland. That's who you attribute this quote to.
So then who's Edward and who's Jacob? Do we feel pretty comfortable with Ryan being Jacob? If he can't have Gypsy, he'll imprint on the next best thing.
The behaviors tend to lean towards Ken as Edward, and then Ryan would be Jacob.
Let us know. Do you agree? Red for yes, blue for no. Is it really necessary to have closure on this relationship? You had a baby with somebody else. I think that's a pretty clear slamming shut of the door. And also, you guys have been nasty to each other online. So I don't really know where the idea that a friendship could blossom is coming from.
And you weren't, you didn't have a great relationship. You weren't feeling supported and cared for, and the marriage itself was what was falling apart. That was why you left.
Do you think that maybe Ryan knows some stuff about her that perhaps nobody else does, and she's afraid that he may put that information out to the world if they're not on good terms?
You could just say that's the methadone talking, I suppose.
The methadone towel.
And just dismiss that right away. Not even going to entertain it.
I'm not surprised Ken's upset, though, because it's really not good when she's expressing problems existing, like cracks in her relationship with Ken, and then she's immediately wanting to plan a lunch date with Ryan. Let's call it a date. That's what it is.
She's trying to have dates. I agree with Ken, though, where this does not need to happen. We shouldn't be going this route. There's a lot of unnecessary drama that will just stem from this. We're only adding to Ryan's delusion at this point because he is stuck clinging to this possibility that he could be this child's father when clearly he is not.
I guess it's a good thing that Ryan flipped out then when, the other thing I don't like is she kind of blamed it on Ken.
Yeah.
When she let him know this wasn't going to work out. It's like,
yes.
Well, I don't have a problem with it, but Ken doesn't want me to bring the baby.
Well, sometimes it is easier to just blame your partner than it is to take personal accountability for something. So that was what she did.
Doesn't she know that? Partner in life, partner in crime.
Oh, well, it's close. It's close. They are striving to be a power couple.
Man, his texts, just one after another.
Well, that bothers me too, to text in that fashion. It would be one thing to have a wall of text, but if you're sending each and every single sentence as a separate message, you are just destroying this phone for notifications.
I'm telling you, the way that irritates me, don't even bother texting me.
I'm going to silence it. I'll check at random intervals throughout the day. I will no longer be checking to see what the messages are as the notifications come up.
All right. You dysregulated me. I don't want to have this conversation anymore.
I can't do it. And can you imagine, is Gypsy's phone on vibrate all the time?
No, it's turned up as loud as it possibly can be.
It's probably dinging and chiming. She's freaking the dog out.
She's got all of her TikTok notifications on.
It's waking the baby up. It's disturbing everyone's sleep cycles here.
So Ken did the fucked up thing by threatening to take the baby, but Ryan also did the same thing in his ultimatum where he was like, if you don't meet with me, the baby's going to stay in Anderson forever because I don't know if you know, but I'm the judge who decides that.
I'm the dad.
And also, I'm going to exercise my parental rights since I'm on her birth certificate, which probably means I'm going to take the baby for periods of time. I'm going to arrange a custody schedule.
What?
I'm taking her for all the good holidays.
How? What are you talking about?
I love when people start threatening legal action when they have not informed themselves at all whether or not that's true. I just think that's like the point where you have reached like the petty, like the bottom of the barrel of threats that you possibly have.
Because Ryan's thought process is, my name is on the birth certificate as her father. Therefore, I will go to court and say, I am this baby's father. Give me the baby, please. And they will hand this child over to him without question, without dispute.
He's going to go to court. He's going to show them Pixie. I've got custody of the first one already.
It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. It's not the same. It's very different. You would be shocked walking into Judge Judy and having her give you the rude awakening that you deserve so much.
So that makes her call an attorney, which I feel like we should have done at the very beginning. Why does nobody ever want to go to court?
Well, especially when it is so strongly in your favor right now, where, yes, Ken is the biological father of your child. If Ryan were the biological father of your child, then you might want to avoid going to court as much as possible because, yes, he would have parental rights that he could exercise, things that he could dispute, things that he could argue for, shared custody, 50-50, whatever. That would be a whole headache. That's not the case. You know for a fact that Ken is the father, definitively.
I really wanted to see that conversation with that attorney, even if it was over the phone.
Oh, with Gypsy's attorney?
Yeah, because first of all, that's bullshit, everything that Ryan just said. And also, the first thing the court's going to want to do is establish paternity. So all he will have done is have forced himself to take a paternity test.
Yeah, that's one of those moments where it's like, oh no, you're going to take me to court?
Please,
I hope not.
Don't. I'm begging you.
Oh no. But this also reminded me of Sister Wives, of course, because everything does, when Cody and Christine were getting divorced, and then he was talking about custody with Truly, and how he started randomly going into all these different theories that he had about how complicated that can get if it's argued over and if it's disputed in court, because he just wanted to get out of, I'm sure, like child support payments, probably, much like Sean.
I'm sorry, he just needs to join a closed quad.
Yeah, that's
and stop working. That's the way you do that.
Obviously. So don't just limit it to Sister Wives, but you just have to open it up to, closed quad.
Other references. You got to watch more TLC. Learn how the real dirtbags do it.
Yeah, they'll learn.
Ryan also goes to get a legal opinion, and we see him speak to, this was a team of lawyers. Why does he have more than one?
Multiple. Well, it's all these different people in Ryan's life who have to keep telling him, I don't think you have a chance with her, dude. I think you need to let it go.
Was the second attorney a producer plant?
No, I think this dude has been in the game for long enough where he's like, I've seen plenty of people who have been divorced in my time. How'd you pass the bar in Louisiana?
He is clearly just there for the drama because he doesn't even ask legal questions. He's like, Have you been talking to her? And I was thinking, okay, he wants to see maybe the communications that they've had, if there's anything that they could submit to the court.
No, he just wants the tea.
He's just genuinely curious if they've been chatting it up.
Have you been initiating or has she?
Is she a blonde or a brunette right now? Come on. He's like subscribed. Oh, yeah, He's following Gypsy and Ryan. He's been watching all the lives. He's voting red for yes.
Red for yes. I will always back your corner, Ryan.
But you're right. Really, the summation of that meeting was, so the last paternity test that Gypsy did doesn't really count in court, so we're just going to do a new one. And you probably don't have a chance with her, so you should stop talking to her.
I appreciate that honesty. I mean, I really do need to hear it. I know it's not healthy for me, but I will continue to do it.
I feel like we need to figure out how you could do a reverse cameo, because Ryan is now on Cameo. But how do we send him a cameo of you impersonating him?
He doesn't want that. He doesn't want that at all.
No, we got to get one for Cody Brown too.
Oh man. Send one back.
They don't let you upload things into Cameo.
Yeah.
Probably afraid of what you'll attach.
Very much so, yeah. As would I. I would be terrified.
Do you care about the Valentine's Day conversation between Gypsy and Ken where they go and they get cake and a Danish?
I cared about the cake.
I cared about where the baby was.
I kept thinking that they left the kid in the car repeatedly.
That
was the running joke.
That is going to be what TikTok is going to assume.
That was the running joke for this episode, was every time they walked in somewhere, I was like, oh my gosh, they left Aurora in the car again. And then she would be there next to the table down in the little basket.
The car seat?
Well, it doubles as it's a car seat.
I can tell you it's not called a basket.
I know it's not a basket. They got cake.
Red velvet cake. Which
controversial cake.
We cannot comment on.
Controversial cake choices.
This podcast.
But we know now for a fact.
Do not talk about any of the ingredients.
No. Ingredients?
That's
no.
a Teresa Giudice callback.
The way to Ken's heart is paved with cream cheese. Because he got carrot cake
that kind of makes sense, doesn't it? It's you know that
he's all about he's all about the cream because we had the carrot cake, which that had a cream cheese frosting, the red velvet, which I think had a cream cheese frosting. Probably
that was Gypsy's choice, though, the red velvet.
Well, yeah, and then there was also a cream cheese Danish. So we're just loading up on the cream cheese.
He's trying to load up those arteries. He wants natural causes to take him out first, not Gypsy.
He's trying to pump as much white cream into Gypsy as he possibly can. At both ends, he's trying.
She makes a little joke about, well, are you going to ask me?
About the cream cheese?
He froze up.
About the cream cheese?
She plays it off as to be your Valentine.
Oh, right.
But come on. She's angling for that ring.
Okay.
She
Subtle
sees
hints.
The parole deadline approaching on the calendar.
Wouldn't it be more beneficial to get married while she is on parole because then they could move in together?
Yeah.
I think she just
that would have fixed a lot of the problems that they currently face.
Probably. But I think maybe this was just the first thing where Gypsy was like, I need to wait. I need to just show that I can go a span of time without jumping into something without thinking it through. Even though they are absolutely talking about that and pushing for that and trying to get a proposal and marriage on the books here.
I don't know. I think Ken should wait and see if she can resist somehow communicating with or about Ryan.
I think you need to watch
a good
these
6 months.
Yeah, you need to watch a couple of these episodes, Ken, and then reconsider before we get to those steps.
I'm surprised Ryan didn't ask her to be his Valentine first.
Well, Ken has 2 Valentines, so Gypsy has 2 Valentines, I guess. His was Aurora and Gypsy, but maybe Gypsy secretly has Ken and Ryan as her Valentines. She has 2 as well.
I really just feel like she's going to continue to go back and forth between the 2 of them for a very long time. Even if it's not physically leaving the home with Ken and breaking up, I suspect there's going to be a lot of constant communication, whether it be texting or calls or DMing each other through whatever accounts currently are not blocked on social.
Because it's the way that Gypsy's approaching this too is because even when they're driving home and she's kind of talking about, she's apologizing to Ken for the situation that they found themselves in and that she tried to approach this with kindness and compassion for Ryan and wanting to be friends. And it was good intentions all around, but that didn't really pan out this way because now it's all argumentative. Now it's between lawyers again, and they have to go through another paternity test. So it's all these different complications. I don't think that that's the reasoning, though, of why she's feeling guilty. This feels like a proxy apology for maybe she was communicating in ways with Ryan that weren't really appropriate either. And so now, instead of fully addressing that with Ken and coming clean about it, I can apologize directly to Ken for kind of what was related to the texting of Ryan.
The thing that I find hard to believe about this being a genuine attempt by her to kind of fix things and be in an amicable place with Ryan is that she swings back and forth between...
Well, no swinging allegations. We can't bring those up here.
But 1 minute she's attacking him online for like just existing. And then the next minute she's acting like she's trying to do him a favor so that he can move on. I don't think that they're pure intentions on her part.
Well, yeah, just mixed signals in general. Definitely. Yeah.
Well, hopefully Ryan has finally got it through his thick skull that he is not the father of the baby, because the paternity test comes back 2 weeks later and he is 0% the father.
See, what I worry about is that they didn't say what the results were on the show. They put the results up on the screen, and this was one of my moments, King of the Hill flashbacks that came to mind. Bobby, if those kids could read, they would be very upset right now, because I don't know if that was picked up on a lot of the haters out there, if they were able to piece 2 and 2 together here, that Ryan has 0% chance of being the father.
Oh, so you're worried that because they didn't verbally acknowledge it, like we didn't have a lawyer and a doctor, we needed a whole panel of experts to deliver the news to us, and now they just won't believe it's credible?
There was some stuff that was popping up in my TikTok feed where people were still questioning, so I don't know what else there is to question at this point. They were applauding Ryan's lawyers for challenging Gypsy's in utero paternity test, but then they also failed to mention the fact that, well, they did the more typical or expected version here, and Ryan had a 0% chance. So we left that little bit of information off, which I feel like is pretty vital when it comes to the consideration of the trials of paternity here.
I mean, why do people want Ryan to be the father anyway? Because doesn't this just prove exactly what they don't like about Gypsy? That she did, in fact, go behind Ryan's back and have sex with Ken so many times that she ensured there was no physical way she could not become pregnant.
It's a lot of cream cheese, guys.
And he's the father of the baby. And so she screwed Ryan over by walking away from him, immediately getting pregnant, and moving on with her life with someone else. Like, that is the shittiest scenario.
Yeah, you'd think that they would be rejoicing over this. Gypsy haters would latch onto that and say, this is why she's so terrible. Look at these horrible decisions that were made and how wrong that was to do that to Ryan. Not really getting that.
Well, maybe they would have been silenced a little bit if Ryan had posted something acknowledging the results of the test, but he never did.
No, he went on a couple of lives, though. Failed to mention the paternity test results because you got to keep it vague. Got to keep it going.
Does she have like a burner account that she's joining his lives from? She has to.
Oh, she's probably joining from her account.
She claimed that she had him blocked. She's on Christy's phone.
I was going to say she's already got one set up for Aurora, even though they don't want her on social media, but just in case.
I do think that they're teeing us up for another season of the show because the end segment of the finale is Ken going shopping for engagement rings.
He had the awkward task of explaining the special event that he would be purchasing the ring for. Will be the last day of Gypsy's parole. New beginnings.
I don't think I'd want to be proposed to on the first day that I'm not on parole.
Not the first day, especially when considering if you had been married, you could have lived together during parole. So I feel like that would just be an extra slap in the face.
Right? It's like, why do it so soon?
Immediately after, it's just another way to lock Gypsy down. She's been locked down her entire life.
Maybe he's getting a little scared of her freedom approaching.
Yeah, what does that mean? What does she do with all of that freedom?
Drive that baby up to Ryan's house in Lake Charles.
We don't like that.
Swing by the Cheesecake Factory together.
Oh, well, Ken does approve of that.
Maybe not when it's Gypsy and Ryan together.
No.
I was surprised he went to like a random, like independent jeweler, not, is it like K Jeweler that has the Disney princess rings? You know she's got one of those picked out.
We don't have a sponsorship deal worked out, so maybe let's not drop names.
I kind of want to go look now and decide which one would be the one that she's already determined is the ring that she would like. Do we agree? Let's call it now, because if Ken does propose to her in the next few weeks, then I want to be the first one to say I think it's going to be one of those Disney rings.
Well, this felt like it was in one of those strip malls where the DNA testing was. So maybe he just doubled up while he was there.
It's 2 doors down, you know, from your local DNA strip mall testing center.
And then your emergency engagement ring purchase impulse buy happens right in the same plaza there. It's where Ryan was getting his paternity testing, and maybe he applied for TSA pre-check too. Apparently they did that as well.
Do you think this is why she went on the social media detox? Because she's afraid that she'll find out what her engagement ring is going to look like? Because it was in the preview for last week, and she did a little TikTok reacting to that, how shocked she was because she had no idea that he filmed something like that.
Just because you're on a social media detox doesn't mean that you can't watch Lifetime. That's TV. You think she's not watching the show? Maybe Ken's getting her to turn it off, and then she's convincing him to turn it off during the Ryan texting segments. So then that way he doesn't know what's going on with those text messages, but she can say it's through planning their engagement stuff too. So like, hey, don't watch these ones.
You think they're experiencing like power surges in the house?
Yeah, she keeps just turning it off, changing the channel.
Cuts out.
I don't want to spoil anything for you.
That's it. That's the finale.
The finale.
The fin.
Oh, they went to the aquarium too. Fins. We forgot to talk about that.
I mean, nothing happened. The baby's a potato. Anything. She's a month and a half old. She wasn't interested in the fish. I don't think
she got it. Yeah. Didn't get much from that. There's some colors, some visual stimulation.
Great to film. Aesthetically interesting.
Gypsy got to release a butterfly. That was very anticlimactic as well.
No, but wasn't that kind of symbolic that the butterfly like wouldn't move? It's like stuck in the same place.
Doesn't want to move on. I don't want to be free. I like being in the cage. Can you put that dome back over me? I feel a lot more comfortable with that.
So Gypsy's got, 3-4 weeks left of parole, potentially.
In real time here.
Unless something happens and she ends up either incarcerated again or on parole for a longer period of time, which would maybe be good for the show.
How deeply ingrained is her self-sabotage? Will she do something completely erratic that will blow her chances of getting off parole here? Time will tell. We're getting close. At the buzzer here.
Since that's the end of Gypsy, make sure that you check out...
Well, like end of the show. End of the show for this season.
Season 2 is over, which means the recaps are also done.
Right.
But you could still check out our recaps of Polyfamily, which is currently airing on TLC.
Which that's its own special variety of shit show as well. So make sure you swing on over and check those out.
And then we're figuring out what else we're going to be doing. We might be diving into the dark side of reality and talking about some old reality TV shows.
Still waiting for Welcome to Plathville to come back. Trying to get back into that.
I'm really hoping that's going to be like a late summer return.
Haven't seen it on the schedule yet, but we're keeping an eye out for it.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe we'll find some other documentaries or some other stuff along the way in the interim here to help fill the time while we're waiting around.
But if you guys have a suggestion of something that you're interested in hearing us cover, let us know. Leave it in the comments. Thanks for listening. See you next time.